I feel like this is going to be talk,
Marshalling talk.
but
Yeah.
now it's being video. Jordan, welcome to Beyond the Game podcast. Happy you're here. You guys, I'm really excited. We're going to learn a little bit about your background and the stuff that you do now, but we're not going to get into that right now. So you'll just learn later on. But a little background of how we know each other. We worked for the NBA together, the organization. We both had 2 years, right?
Yep.
You were there 2 years. And yeah, we have a lot that we relate on. I wanted him to come because I wanted to talk about, obviously, sports. But what was your official title? I was going to say game ops, but what's your official?
Yeah. So I was a game presentation assistant. That was my technical title.
I was going to introduce him as our assistant, but he wasn't our assistant. It was just during games that you helped, I guess. Right. We're going to dive into just all the things, and I'm really excited. So I'm just going to throw this out there. We're throwing it out there now. We're not throwing it. Wait, hold on. Blonde is hitting, I guess.
You're good.
We're going to just get right into it. The Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders. Okay, they came out with a show. Did you see that on Netflix?
I have not yet, but that is on my list.
You've seen the making that on Hulu or whenever they had their old show? Did you ever watch those or hear about it? It basically just went into literally the process of making the team from start to finish, everything that they have to go through, all of the extreme, all this stuff. Netflix came out with this news, basically like a documentary, I guess, but it's the first time that they actually showcase them as individuals and also what they go through, I guess, beyond just making the team. But with that being said, the internet is freaking out and going crazy about the fact that they talked about their pay. And we all know this is a thing. But people are going crazy because they found out they made $500 a game, while the rest of us internet that are in the also industry are like $500 a game, that's $1 billion to us, because they kind of compared what they make. So they obviously make more hourly too in the practice, but they compared themselves to a Chick-fil-A worker, a full-time Chick-fil-A worker, which I feel is good. But let's kind of go into that, because not only the conversation obviously is that professional dancers get underpaid. I want to hear your thought on that, but I also want to hear your experience, because I think it's also not said, of the game crew, game ops. You have your dancers, but each organization also has another group that what about them? What about what they do and how much they're making? Why is that also being unsaid? So let's just talk about pay. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know that about the Cowboys cheerleaders, which is actually really surprising, given I guess the stature of when you think professional organization, especially dance team, entertainment team, Cowboys are the standard, right? There's no disputing that. But I actually think that that's one thing that a lot of people do not realize is that's not the organization that maybe that's happening in. And I know that from a standpoint of whether it's dance team, mascot, operations, presentation, those type of teams, right? And that's what we've worked in. I know that sometimes the pay and the responsibility don't exactly equal to each other. Yeah. And it is very surprising, especially when you consider these professional sports organizations to be making billions of dollars in revenue, right? From so many ways, ticketing, merchandise. It is very strange to see, I guess.
Yeah. I think they also, why I wanted your kind of standpoint is because they talk about that in the show of well, people aren't here just for a job. Yes, it's a job, but the girls aren't here because of the money. They're here for, what they get to do in the dance, which is also true. But what about y'all? I mean, yes, obviously it's really cool to be working on a big organization and getting to do that. But I mean, it's not like you dreamed of being an assistant since you were 2. Whereas yeah, dancers, that is true. We get to live our dream and we get to live our life. The money is a bonus. Like you said, they're on this highest status. Some of them even talked about they're probably more famous than the actual football team, and a lot of their revenue comes in. And I think that's something that we kind of talked about throughout the seasons of, I don't know how other organizations are ran, but part of we were all the runners of the sponsorships, I guess you would say that, right? Like we, as the way that our team was run, we didn't have performances every quarter. So like I know a lot of dance teams, they do that. So maybe they don't have to do like on-court games and whatever. I don't really know. I don't know a lot about the different teams, but ours did. So we had sponsorships. We were running like not only them, but us. We're doing the fan engagement. We're picking fans. We're taking, what's it called? The props on and on. Like without us, there would have been no timeout type games or whatever. And yes, they could have fired us and put other people in, but then they're getting paid the same thing. Like it's the same thing. What, like, that's one thing we talked about, like, why are we getting so underpaid? But like without us, the show wouldn't be running. Like, yes, we have the sports and people come here for that, but also this is an entertainment. I don't know about NFL, but in NBA, it's also part entertainment and sports. What is your kind of thoughts on that? I guess what you said, but is there anything else to add when it comes to that?
Yeah. So, well, like you mentioned, I think the thing that a lot of people don't realize when it comes to sports and events is that entertainment aspect. There's a lot of moving parts, right?
Yeah.
A lot of moving parts. And that's something that's really cool that you and I have gotten to see kind of the behind the scenes of.
See and do.
Right. Being in an organization. And what a lot of people don't understand is, especially dance team, right? They do so much more than just going out there, doing a quick performance, and that's it, right? Like you had mentioned, there's a lot of other responsibilities that are assigned to you that you have to make happen in order for that fan experience to reach the standard of what we're trying to achieve, right?
And if it doesn't happen, the weight falls on you too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like you're under a lot of pressure besides just putting out a performance.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Insane. Let's also do a little disclaimer. What we're talking about has nothing to do with our specific organization. Also, it doesn't mean that anything's wrong. We talked about this in the second episode. I'm like, just because something is going on does not mean that it's necessarily wrong or bad. But I think I feel more comfortable putting this out for sure and talking about these things in the podcast because of the show, just because a lot of people, especially in Dallas, when I was in Dallas, threatened. That was like a big threat. Like if you go and talk, if you talk about these things unsaid, that's why nobody knows about it. There was a lot of like some organizations that were like, I will literally sue you. Like that's what happened with me when I talked about a podcast. But seeing that, I'm like, wait, so they're actually like they're bringing awareness. Yes, they're kind of gaslighting it a little bit, I think, but I think it's something that needs to be unsaid, not be unsaid, because yes, it's probably not going to change, but at least people should be aware. So that kind of leads us into what is something that you would advise. So if someone came up to you that wanted to either just work in the NBA, maybe pro, or do the specific job that you had, and is like, what do I need to know? Or what are they not telling me that I need to be prepared for? What would you say?
Yeah, I think the most common misconception about when you tell people you work in sports, you work in pro sports, they think, can you hook me up with tickets? You must have conversations with all the players, all the coaches every single day. Like, you must be best buddies with them and know where they live at and all that good stuff, right? Yeah, exactly. We're like this. Yeah, no. And that's not the case, right? Don't get me wrong. It is a very unique opportunity. It's a very fun environment to be a part of. I know I've loved it. However, at the end of the day, it's also work. It's also a job. And I think, out of the 41 home games that we work during the year, I think
it's 42.
42. There you go, 42. I think maybe a handful of them I actually got to watch majority of the game, just because it was a lighter workload that game. But the rest, you're moving around. I couldn't tell you highlights from that game because simply did not get to enjoy it, right? And that's what people think. You just have a front row seat to the action all the time. So I would definitely say that when it comes to expectations, like, don't think it's just a free ride. It is a dream job for some people, but you have to understand too, at least for the entry level positions, you got to work your way in. You got to make connections, build relationships in order to work your way up. Yeah.
I think also time I don't know if time management's the right word, but I know a lot of people, including my family or friends or whatever, you hear a game, so you're like, oh, cool, you got to be there by 7. No. When game days, not only the dancers, but y'all were there either the same time, maybe an hour or two early. Like, you're there from 10 a.m., maybe 11, let's say 12. Let's just say a late game, 12 o'clock. Yeah. Game doesn't start till 7. We're there at 12. So it is an all-day thing. And, like, for the NBA, we had games 3 days a week sometimes too. But I think a lot of people, I've had a lot of people in my DMs asking about the team, like, oh, like, can you give me advice, blah, blah, blah. But they're all asking, like, oh, so I can have a 9-to-5 job and that's fine. And I'm like, yes, if you have, is it a job that you can ask off last minute? Is it a job that will allow you to have 3 days off or something? Because yes, we don't practice until 6 p.m. on those days, but on the game days, like, it's an all day thing. You don't get, like, I got tons of, my parents would be like, well, can you come home and then, like, you can just drive back the next day. I'm like, dude, that's 2 hours away. I have to be game day ready. Y'all have to, like, have your shit together by the time you walk in the arena, and then you're not done until 11 p.m. So that, like, yeah, overall kind of, you only have to be there an hour early. No, we are working on game days from the morning and to the night. Like,
yeah, no, it's an all day thing. And like you said, there are stretches where it's brutal. I mean, what did we go on, like a 6 games in 9 days?
It was a 6-9, something like that. We had 2 of those this year. I don't remember, but I know that, like, March and maybe January, there was I looked at the calendar and we had 2 days off out of the whole entire month, and it was like a 31-day month.
Yeah, and to your point, like, it does make it more difficult if you're trying to get another job, or trying to balance that when that workload does start to pile up. And back to the point about the pay, at the same time, if you're not being compensated for it, it really makes it a lot more difficult.
A lot. I think that's something that's why I really wanted to talk NBA, because I don't know about other organizations, but I know NFL, a lot of people were going crazy. But the difference is, now I'm not speaking for them, but I also originally was from NFL, and I have tons of people in there. Also studied the Cowboys for like ever. But that is one different thing. NBA, we go from August to May sometimes, going normal schedule, and then we also have, like, appearances. Y'all have, usually there's a sister company or something like that you're working with for other NBA teams. But NFL, yeah, you have 2 practices a week, and then you have 1 game, and that's it. So it is very doable to manage a full-time job. That's why normally they make you have a full-time job. For us, though, we are part-time, but, like, yeah, your schedule, it is really hard. Now, granted, yeah, we got some fat paychecks, but at the same time, those were the only paychecks we were getting. That only covered, like, what, our rent?
You got some? Where were mine?
That is actually true. You guys got paid less than us. That's what I'm saying. Like,
all right, you don't have to rub it in like that, but all right, I see where this is going.
Like, to mention. But that was, like, another reason I'm like, yeah, like, you guys were doing, just because, and that was another thing I want to touch, just because y'all weren't, twerking your asses off in the car, you guys, like, physically were moving. Like, if you're not in shape, you can't work for the NBA, because, like, that was one thing. I'm like, I think they, we had practices, but y'all were also working during the day too. So I feel like same kind of amount of hours. Maybe y'all worked some more, some depending on what we were doing, maybe more, but, like, y'all were moving. Like, when you get there, you don't get to sit down unless you're eating, but sometimes you're standing while you're doing that too. So, like, yeah, definitely some differences that I think I'm like, be aware if you want to come in. Be aware, for sure. Okay, moving on a little bit. Let's talk relationships.
Okay.
Favorite topic. Now, I wanted to talk about, like, for athletes, what they went through when it comes to relationships, but I feel like you have a good bird's eye, because not only did you experience, I haven't, I guess, gotten to it, but, like, different setbacks, I think, because you work for the sports, because that means you also have the same, yeah, maybe you don't have the pressure of, like, making goals all the time or something, or, like, leading the team, but you did have the schedule, which makes it really hard to date when you're working for a professional organization, not because of the organization, but because of the time. But then I feel like you also are like the perfect example of like what other athletes go through as well, in the fact of you're surrounded around so many people. So what was it like dating, one, just with time, and then two, being a guy with being surrounded around girls the whole time? So like jealousy and stuff. Like I know a lot of us, our boyfriends, depending on who they are, that's kind of an insecurity that they have of like, oh, you're around all these professional athletes, or like all of our executives were men. What's your thought process on that, or like experience? If that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I think, well, number one, when you talk about the schedule that we have, obviously, it is a little bit harder when trying to have a social life, I guess, at times. But also when you talk about like being in a relationship, being in an environment like that, can be, I guess, a little bit difficult to navigate if like you and your partner are not, I guess, totally secure,
yeah, I was gonna say,
with
like,
each other.
secure.
And I know that this is something that I've kind of experienced a little bit myself. I know others probably have too, but the misconception is always like, oh, you work with the dance team, like you're surrounded by all those girls, and and obviously there's always that question in the back of your partner's mind, and you try to do everything you can to like reassure is like, hey, this is work. At the end of the day, like we're at the top. We're at the professional sports organization level. All right,
it's the highest
yeah,
we can go in our career right now. Yeah.
So at the end of the day, is like, am I going to risk that? Am I going to risk our relationship over something else? Like, no.
I think the biggest thing, if you are dating someone that is working in the professional sports, if you're not secure in yourself and in your relationship, get the fuck out of the relationship. And that's on you. You need to go work on yourself. Facts. Because the truth is, like, they are living their dream, and I think that's like big on the security, because I think that's one thing. Thank goodness for my man who literally was there like all the time. He had to see, like, when I'm in uniform, and then same for y'all, like, part of the job is fan interaction, and we have to be women, or we have to be friendly guys, like, which can come off to the outside as flirting. But it's because if a fan comes up to me and is like, hey, what are you doing? I can't be like, no. I have to, obviously, we are taught to keep our boundaries, but like, I have to have a smile on my face. Like, there are lots of things, and you're gonna, whether you're not gonna be able to see that, or you're gonna go to a game and you're gonna see that, and if you're not secure being like, she's doing her thing or he's doing their thing, like, then it's not gonna be good. It's not gonna be healthy. There's gonna be so much fighting, like, and then that goes for if you're working in the organization. Make sure they're good. Okay, make sure they're mentally good. I think that you need to be like open communication, I guess. Like, there was multiple times I would go home and be like, someone touched me today. Like, it made me super uncomfortable. I didn't know what to do. Very open, which honestly, thankfully, I was dating someone that, like, it got to the point, I think sometimes, because I guess we're going to talk about this too, of like, you get put in some weird situations. Like, women, who was it? Our other assistant, was it our other assistant? Or maybe one of the teammates. All of the old ladies loved him. Like, they would come and touch him. They would be all up on him. Like, we would all talk about it in the locker room, but like, you can't do anything about that, right? But like, sometimes you're gonna get uncomfortable. It got to the point sometimes where I actually would feel more comfortable when I would like text my boyfriend our schedule, and I'd be like, can you get here at this time and this quarter? Even though I know that I'm protected, because we would have our assistants or like our coaches or executives, like, always, you can tell them if you don't feel comfortable. I think he trusted me even more, because I would tell him. I wasn't trying to hide anything. I'd be like, dude, I have to work with this person. I know you don't really like them, but they're going to be there with me. If you want to come. So like, be open. Don't be like shady, but just make sure that, yeah, I think you really have to choose your people wisely, for sure, that are all going to respect your time and your job, I guess, if that makes sense.
For sure. Not everybody gets it.
Yeah. We won't dive into that more. To marshalling talk. Goodness.
I love marshalling talk.
By the way, that's our behind the scenes, I guess you would say, right? Before we get into kind of like mental health, since we're on this kind of like MBA, I use this in an example. I don't remember what the question was, but it was for auditions. I don't remember. They asked me something about leadership or something like that. And I used the quote, people don't leave jobs, they leave leadership. And I went all into it. What are your thoughts about that? And I guess maybe kind of like not organization, but like yeah, I guess that's the right word. Like organizing is something. What are your, just like hearing that, what are your thoughts on that?
So I love this because, no, I do. I really do, because I 100% agree. And this is coming from like my previous experience in management, in coaching, everything, all the way back to high school, when I held leadership positions. Like, leadership is something that I'm passionate about, and I take pride in being a leader for a certain group, right? And so I do agree with that. People do leave, they don't leave jobs because of the actual job. They leave because of the way that a culture is created.
Yeah.
As a leader, you have the power to literally make or break your culture. Are you, allowing your people to feel included, to feel valued, to feel heard? At minimum, that's all that people want to feel.
Yeah.
And so if you're not doing that as a leader, obviously you're going to have a larger turnover rate. Okay, you're going to have a revolving door full of people, in and out, in and out. You're going to start forgetting their names because
Killing new people all the time.
Yeah, which one is this for the year? This is the third person for that. Oh yeah, but I totally agree with that, and I think it's something that it's not talked about a lot. Mm-hmm. Sure, there's those rare occurrences where you just straight up do not like your job, and that's something that, hey, it happens, right? It's not for you, but a large percent of the time, people get turned off by the way that they are treated. Yeah. And I think that's a huge thing.
Yeah, no, for sure. I feel like that's literally, I can remember looking our boss in the eye, the one that asked me, and was like, if I should say this, I'll say it if I want to cut it out. But I remember being, I don't know, I went into that full rant and I was like, you will know this answer next year, determining where I'm going to be.
Yeah.
And which is really funny, actually, because I am really excited. I do get to work auditions this year. That's fun. I wanted to do it, but I think I really believed in that when I had that answer, and I have kind of been falling back on that all season long, and that's kind of what helped me determine kind of like who I want to be, where I want to go, and like what I want to do. And I think I even said that I was like, my goal is to be up there on that table with you guys. No, I'm not judging, but like we're making moves, so it's good. It's good. Okay, let's get into more seriousness, sort of. I mean, I feel like this was kind of all serious, so kind of like heavy for sure. Let's talk. So you played sports in high school.
Did.
Okay,
yes.
And then you coached. What did you coach?
So I coached basketball.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you coach like in college? So you did the camps. That's what. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. How long did you do that?
So done that for 6 years now.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Summer basketball camps. So really fun.
So with that, you've been around a lot of athletes, both young and old. You've been around a lot of college athletes, and then you yourself, are you like a former athlete? When it comes to, let's just talk like men's health for a little bit. A lot of the statistics or the things that I kind of like read a lot in my learnings. I read a lot about papers about this, but was that the pressure that like men hold, athletes in general, but like there's actually like studies that show like men just handle it different, but the pressure of like life and becoming an adult or like transitioning to high school to post athletic, like all the above, plus your athleticness, like what is that like for guys? Like have you noticed like a struggle? Is there something that you can like from an outside looking in, or even from a personal, like how does that like transition work through? What does it look like? How do they handle it? Just kind of what are your thoughts when it comes to like that overall umbrella?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that it's something that a lot of people do not talk about. Yeah. Right. And I think as men, and especially athletes, a lot of us are, I guess, built to kind of not show any emotions, right? Not show that anything is affecting us, especially when it comes to, like I said, performance on court, on field, whatever the case may be. I think that there's a lot to shoulder at times when being a student athlete, going through that transition where, and I've been through it, where it's like, you're done, and like this is as much as you're gonna get to play, and you have to kind of look forward to something else. Like, what's the next avenue of your life gonna look like? And I think that's hard. It's difficult for a lot of people. And you talk about not just being in sports, not just being physically demanding, but mentally, logically. There are a lot of factors. It's not for the weak. It's not for the weak.
You have to be strong physically and mentally.
Yeah, you gotta be a different breed. You gotta be a different breed. Yeah, and it's not talked about a lot. That's something that I really think we need to start talking about. I know that there's some professional athletes that have done a great job of it lately. I know DeMar DeRozan, Kevin Love, just to name a couple, like from the NBA side, they've been very, very open, very vocal about their struggles with their mental health. And I think it's just important to get more athletes, especially professional, on that same track. That way, the next generation, the younger athletes coming up, also, I guess, feel a connection. They feel that they're not alone in going through that, and they share that feeling with somebody else.
That's huge. I feel like there is not enough resources for sure, and not enough talk. Like for male athletes, I feel like whatever resource you need to be a better athlete, it's there. You need to train more. You need to learn whatever you need to wear. Literally, they're like, we will give you anything you need to be a better athlete, to make us more money, to get more successful. Yeah. But when it comes to being a better individual and a healthy individual and a happy individual, it's like, well, you can deal with that later. But then you get post sports and there's like nothing except just bye. Like, you're out in the wilderness. I feel like it's important for it to be talked about for sure in the middle of it. I think there's like a lot being shown that there's a lot of destructiveness happening after for men as well. There needs to be resources there, because like guys are going and like getting girls pregnant, like getting arrested. And I say those examples because that one was a lot that I researched, but then like in therapy, we talk about that a lot. And she has a lot of examples, so she gives me a lot of them. But like, there's these guys that we talked about, like football players a lot, and they would get injured and get taken. And she's like, they will not talk. They won't even look at the sport anymore. They won't watch anything. Maybe they'll coach and stuff like that, but she's like, no, seriously, like this example, like they have a child now, which that doesn't have anything to do with God. But, there's all these like behaviors that like, if you just would deal with it and like maybe talk about it and also be aware that like I'm going through a loss and that, then maybe you would save yourself some of these like charges going on, or like these things going on, but also like live better and like happier. What is your advice though for someone that is walking away from their career or having to be with an injury or something like that, like knowing what you know, what are tools that they can use to like be implementing in their life, or even just be working on their self to kind of like hopefully combat all those feelings that are probably rushing in that they feel like they have to just shut down?
Right. Well, I think number one, if there's really a hard time letting go of, I guess, a certain sport, certain activity. Number one, is there another way, another avenue that you can kind of look into to where you're still kind of involved in it?
True.
But not so much totally dissociated from it, right? Because I think that's the drastic change. Like, I know for me, I just know like I'm a sports fanatic, like that's my passion, right? But I know like I'm not the next LeBron James or anything, right? Like I'm not going to make it to that level. Well, that was the question I had, was like, okay, well, how do I still kind of keep interested in the sport, even if I can't play it? Yeah. And that's when I decided to get into coaching, which eventually led me into getting into working for professional sports organization, an NBA. Yeah. And that's something that's kind of kept me, I guess, mentally stimulated, in the fact that I have still gotten those opportunities to do that. And so I feel like that's number one, is like find something to kind of keep you close to it, right?
Yeah.
And I know that, going back to your point about not there being enough resources, I know that like the NBA, they've done a phenomenal job lately. I think like every team now is required to have a mental health advisor.
Yeah, that's true. They do. Yeah.
And I'm not sure about the other leagues. I would hope that they're taking those steps as well. But on the collegiate scale, on the high school scale, like, are those resources there?
True.
I don't think so. Like, at least I'm not aware of, right? And I think it's important to actually implement it at a younger age.
Yes.
Like you said,
yeah.
For those that start getting into some,
especially when they're in, like, that's like, our brains are still developing, so like they're the ones that are very like, yeah, exactly, like those are the ones that are more vulnerable, because they're like, not only are they going through this process, but then they're becoming an adult, or they're like having to be on their own, they're learning other things that are already hard enough, but add this pressure on, and they're like, what am I supposed to do? Yeah, I completely agree. That was really good, actually. Sorry. I think that, I know therapy is, obviously men are like not supposed to show their emotions. And I feel like even more, like, therapy is looked so down upon. And I feel like there should be a way that we can incorporate that doesn't look like that. That doesn't look like you have to go to somebody's place and sit there for an hour, but like change it up, like bring someone in. Like, I know social workers are becoming a huge thing when it comes to that, like mental health. Bring them in, make it something that's more not girly, like actually address what guys need and what boys need growing up and everything. I think that should be, like you said, implemented early on so that they know what to do.
Right.
Or can handle things.
And the fact that, like, that's the stigma, is like, oh, men can not show their emotions. Like, that's such, it's bullshit. It really is. It is. And maybe it's just the way I was raised. I know everybody's raised differently, but like, I just feel like, who cares? Like, at the end of the day, we're all human. We should be able to find comfort in others, be able to express those feelings, those emotions. Yeah, I mean, I really wish that stigma would go away.
Have you, do you know Johnny Manziel?
Yeah.
I talk about him a lot. I want to get him on here. Anyways, but the reason why I talk about him is because he's from Kerrville. So I was from there. And so, yes, I know people that, I guess, played with him. But one thing, my parents are psychologists, and I grew up around basically every psychologist, social worker, anything mental health. I knew all those people. And so my mom also was a probation officer when he played there. So we were there all the time. But as I was watching his show, apparently he came out and said that he was like bipolar, and that was like the reason. He didn't really touch on that in the documentary, but as from like a mental health person and then also from an athlete perspective, I'm like, yeah, if they would have just had any teacher is a train, any teacher and counselor that worked there would talk. I'm like, I don't want to out them. Have talked about his behavior in high school. And, oh yeah, this doesn't surprise me that he was like this, yeah, he was just a jock and blah, blah, blah. And I'm thinking, okay, well, if you're able to look at some kid and you could instantly diagnose him, why did no one help him? Because now you're saying, oh, that makes sense. This is the reason why he acted this way and why he did this and why he couldn't do that. But I'm like, you saw that early on. And even then when they're talking about this early on, so I'm like, and there's so many more, like, especially in that program, there's a lot of those guys that came out of there and they're getting arrested for assault, and they're getting like, he's not the only one. And so I'm like, y'all are all praising him still, not him. All of that department, they're still constantly praising all these kids that are like becoming stars, but then they're all having the same fallout. And so I'm like, if you know this, why didn't you implement, if y'all are so concerned with bringing all the girl athletes in, and how are you, becoming a woman, how are you doing? Why is that not there too? Because then you could be the helpful person that helps their fallout before it even happens. Sorry, tangent.
No, you're good. I mean, that's a great example too. I mean, he was on top of the world.
He was, yeah.
Right? And I hate to say it because, he's an Aggie, but, but I mean, shoot, even I respected his gameplay, and just at such a high level, and to see that, it really was a shame. I watched the documentary too on Netflix. It blew me away. Couldn't believe it.
It's insane. I think it's cool seeing it from like now where I am. Then, I mean, obviously he was a big name once I graduated, but I think knowing what I've known and like the experience that I've had, it's obviously not the same, but I've been in the field of the same. And so I'm like, I like feel like I'm like, you need to tell your story in a different aspect. Come on here, please. Okay, we're getting into our tea time, which that's what I just called it. I don't know. It's like the rapid fire ending, but there's could be some tea in this. So what is a jaw-dropping moment that has happened in your career? So this could be funny, bad, good, whatever it is. Literally anything that comes to mind. It can happen to yourself, a coach, at a game, an event. What is something?
So there might be a couple, but I think the one that was most memorable is one time we were playing in a basketball game, and it was maybe like third or fourth quarter already. Game's about to be over, and all of a sudden, the game gets stopped. We hear a ruckus from the stands happening. It was actually like a fan from our team and a fan from the other team that were getting into an altercation. Yeah, and they were trying to throw fists too.
Is that high school?
This is in high school. Yeah, crazy. You can imagine us being little teenagers standing there like, what's going on? It wasn't my dad, but yeah, it was definitely something. It was to the point where they had to take them both out. That was just, I don't know. For me, it was crazy because it's just like, it's not that serious, you guys. Like, why are you doing that for kids? You know what I mean? Like, it's really not. Yeah, that was something that was wild.
I can just imagine. What is something that would surprise someone on the outside looking in that was normal in your sport, or like say NBA, like, and something that, I mean, I guess we kind of touched about this, but what the fans think that we get. What is something like looking in that either is very normal and this happens or this does thing? Like my example was the fact that we shared a locker room with the guys, or like how I have to dye my hair, or like at least in my old team, I had to, like, I wasn't have to, and people are like, wait, what? Like, they don't know this goes on. So anyways, what is something that's kind of normal? And this could either be in your work or if there was something in your sport.
I mean, I would say, I guess for working for a sports team, it's something that I guess people don't realize is like, we are not always, what am I trying to say? I'm drawing a blank.
Sport, we're talking NBA or?
Yeah, NBA.
We're not always happy and on like they think we are.
I mean, that's true. That is also very true. But yeah, like we don't have instant access to everything.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's what they think is like, we know everybody in the organization. Now, granted, it is good, make those connections, as much as you can. That's the advice that I would give. It's very relationship driven. We don't have instant access to everything. We can't get you suite access. We can't get you onto the floor. Okay, sometimes we can, but that's we gotta we gotta move mountains in order to do that. And I know, like, I would always get hit up by like people that wanted to sing the national anthem or perform or do something else like, on the court, and it was always like you guys have to understand that there's levels to this. Like, low man on the totem pole, and I got to go through so many other people to make that happen. It comes down to availability, comes down to budget. Another thing too is a lot of them start to make demands, and they want to get paid for it, and they want to get all this customized jerseys and whatnot. And it's just it's not that easy to make that all happen. And people think it is, right? Just because what you see on TV, those are special occasions, right? Those, talk about NBA finals, that type of deal. But game to game, that's not how it goes. It's just not.
And honestly, with that, because I'm very honest on here. Yeah. If you messaged me, no, I'm just kidding. I think that's, so not only that, but I also think from I think it was really hard, and I know y'all got this too, but as professional dancers, there was multiple times we'd have people that would have never talked to us from high school, or from whatever it was, completely dissed us. We all had examples. You're like, oh my gosh, this person just messaged me, asked me if I can get them on this and that. This girl, yelled in my face, all the things, just the normal high school things. But it's they haven't even talked to me since then. And one, yeah, don't expect that we can do everything. Two, like, don't be that person. Because honestly, everyone's making fun of you in the locker room. One, your whole entire like tea is being spilt in the locker room for people that you don't even know. And two, it's just like it's heartbreaking. Honestly, I don't know if that's the right word, but I can remember like I had my feelings hurt this first season because I had tons of people from my schools like past come to a game. I'm someone that just like loves everyone, right? I also am very proud of my success, and so I want to bring that up. Like I'm an influencer. Anytime I get things, I'm like I want to give that to people. I want to try and get deals for people. For NBA, I obviously wanted to get people on, but like when people come, I would have like from people that went to my school, if they came to games, I would have gone and got them out of their seats. And I hope you like listen to this. I would have came and got you out of your seats and brought you onto the court because that's how excited I was and proud I was. And I knew you, and they never messaged me, never said hi to me, never came. And that like there was multiple people that went to my school that came to multiple games and never said anything to me. And I was just like, to me, that was like really hard. I'm like, wait, why wouldn't you want to like what? But then second season, that's when I had to do a lot of hard work, and I realized one, I'm not working for them, I'm not living for them. I shouldn't like measure my success based on what they recognize, and that's okay. That's fine. Y'all are the ones missing out. Like
she whatever. Kept those seats, y'all. She kept them.
Yeah, I was really heartbroken, but it's fine. But I realized I'm like, wait, no, like this is why be so focused on the fact that a couple people came. Like they didn't recognize me in high school. They didn't like see me in high school. So why is it different? And I shouldn't care about like I'm not living for their approval. So I shouldn't let that like I should be more focused on the fact that I'm on the court with like people that are like so cool and the fact that I'm like even getting to perform here rather than the fact that the people in 203 are not talking up there in the nosebleeds. I don't know. I just went on a tangent. Sorry, guys. With that being said, though, stop measuring your success based on how much or how little people are, I guess, giving you the applause, I guess, you know, because there's a lot of us that I think are still, you know, we get to these like highest points. I know personally I do. And then you're like, I made it, everybody. And there's still nobody like behind you. But on this side, nobody's behind you. But on this side, like there's the people that are with you at the same moment, like have been there for you. Like I know Sophie, I don't even know if she's still here. We were voice mode and she was like, you always have a cheerleader. Like there's people cheering you on, even if it's just like a like on Instagram, like there's always people. And I think we get so focused on the other side of who's not and like, wait, but I did all these things. But like, if we just like turn and look, there's so many people that are still like actually there for us. And I know that has been.
No, I'm glad you said that. I never thought that way.
And then in the other sense, like it wasn't until after this season that I also realized that I went through this season talking to people and saying things to people of, oh, I want to do this next year. I want to do like all my goals. And can you connect me to this? And it was just like, no silence. And I felt really hurt. And then season ends or like season starts ending and I start talking to other people like you or like our other assistants. And then I realize like, wait, holy shit, there's like executive people that actually have control that are actually cheering me on. So I've been focusing on these people that probably couldn't even do much for me and they don't really care. But then like this whole time I've had people like our goodbye or thing or whatever. It was the people that like I didn't get to see all the time that actually have like all these connections that were like, what are you doing next? Why are you leaving? Okay, how can I help you? What can I do? Like, I'm always your cheerleader, like, blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, if I would have just looked at a different perspective or at a different area, one, I might have different things going on right now. And two, I probably would have been a little bit more not so hard on myself trying to impress all these people. Like, whatever I'm doing, it's clearly working for other things, if that makes sense. I don't know if I said that right, but
yeah. No, that makes perfect sense. I do the same thing too. So like, I feel like a lot of people do it.
Mm-hmm.
We focus so much on the negative, on the what ifs, on the potential. Well, there could be more support. There could be more people. Mm-hmm. Okay, but like you said, that's why I really like that. Turn around, turn your other shoulder, because you got your whole little fan group right over there that's rooting you on, no matter what, your highest to highs, your lowest of low successes and failures. So I think that's important to just hone in on that.
I said something meaningful. Okay, wrapping it up. What is the best piece of advice? What is the best piece of advice that you have been given, or something like inspirational that a teammate, a coach, a person, something that has like stuck with you?
Ooh, okay. So I can't remember a lot of like inspiration from like coaches or teammates, stuff like that. I think the one quote that has stood out to me has actually been from my parents.
Okay.
And and so I was like, I kind of want to share that, and obviously like they are my number one support system online, right? And something that they've just told me is like always like, I'm trying to think of it. It's coming to me. No, they always said like you're smarter than you think, right? You're stronger than you believe, and like, you're loved more than you'll ever know.
That's good.
I believe that's what it was, something like that. So every time like I feel down about something, feel like life's not lifing at the moment, I always think back to that and those words of encouragement that they've told me. Going back to like just me believing that I am brave enough, I am confident enough to go out and accomplish whatever I want to do. That's something that I kind of take to heart. Yeah. Being that it comes from them just means so much more. So, yeah.
That's good. That was perfect. Oh, we can end on that. That was really good. Well, thank you for coming on. I feel like we actually stayed on topics and actually got a lot in there. I feel like there was some good advice in there as well, and like good topics, and I'm really excited.
It's really good. Thanks for having me on. Like I said, I've never done anything like this before, so I was like, I don't know how it's gonna go. I might stumble on my words here and there, but this was so much fun.
What do y'all think? Did he do good? I think, no, you were perfect. Thank you so much. Jordan has been like a huge help in like my postseason. I think just like the connections and just like the conversation. He has like a very business minded / like positive minded set. So thank you for coming on. I'm really excited.
Of course.
If there's
always here for you.
Anything, thank you, that resonated with you guys, please feel free to DM me. I would love to hear it. If you have any questions, please DM me. And then if you have any thoughts of people to come on here, please let me know. I actually have some of his friends hopefully coming on soon, so I'm really excited for that. Well, you don't have social media, do you? I was going to say, pimp yourself out. How can they find you? But he doesn't, so he's going to be...
I got Facebook, I got Twitter, or X. Yeah.
YouTube. He's not a YouTuber, maybe. Are you? Well, I'm so excited. Thank y'all for tuning in, and thanks for coming on.
Absolutely. See you next time. Thanks for having me.
Bye. That was good.